This episode is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get access to my streaming video service Nebula when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description. Why has no one mentioned anything about the White Stripes' Little songs? If you take a look at the band's discography, there's a trend that they kept going throughout their entire 6-album run. It started with Little People on their self-titled debut, then Little Bird on Day Still, White Blood Cells gave us Little Room,
Well, you're in your little room.
there was Little Acorns on Elephant, Little Ghost on Get Behind Me Satan, and finally, Little Cream Soda on Icky Thump. With how calculated Jack White is when it comes to presentation, there's just no way that this was a coincidence. Of course it was intentional. And knowing that they would continue this trend, would the group have put some extra thought into what these little songs would represent over the course of their career? Most of them are far from the Stripes' greatest hits. So, is there anything that makes these songs more significant? Well, let's take a closer look at the White Stripes' Little songs. The group's debut is their dirtiest and roughest release, but it proved that they could do a lot with very little. With Jack White on vocals and guitar and Meg White on the drums, the minimalist duo deliver one stomping track after another. The Stripes followed through with their rule of 3 on their first Little song, Little People. Made up entirely of only 3 power chords and containing exactly 3 verses. It's also unique in that it features a theremin. That theremin might as well have been Jack sliding down a guitar string. It's not a blaring addition to the track, and yet the group managed to sound larger than life with such sparse instrumentation. Because it wasn't only about the sounds they made, but the space between those big beats and riffs. This early collection of garage rock concepts became the template for how the two would sound and present themselves moving forward. The song mentions a little girl and a little boy, alluding to the little people mentioned in the title. You see, the goal behind the White Stripes' playing was that they were children. Jack loved looking at things from the perspective of a child. It's what inspired their color-coordinated outfits, their basic instrumentation, and lyrical content. They even performed loudly and barbarically like children would. The White Stripes felt that the intentions of children were pure, and to think like them meant creating music that was authentic to themselves. Day Still houses my favorite Little song, and it's one that pays respects to rock's past. Jack kicks off the track playing with a guitar slide, giving his axe a sludgy whine, while also exhibiting the guitarist's admiration for Jimmy Page, with a riff that closely resembles Zeppelin's In My Time of Dying. Then again, it also sounds a bit like AC/DC's Whole Lotta Rosie. Either way, the frontman revives a very nostalgic sound, combining old-school blues with his personal punk edge. The band defined and expanded on their sound with catchier hooks, more variation in guitar tones, and some stronger songwriting.
Got a little bird, I'm gonna take her home, put her in a cage.
Little Bird appears to be an abduction song about a controlling boyfriend, caging this woman up like his very own bird and preaching to her. But it's also loosely tied to stories of St. Francis of Assisi, who would preach to birds and trees. They would surround the saint, intrigued by his powerful voice, and not one of them flew away. Which makes me believe that this track is more of a comment about the group's audience at this point. Jack is St. Francis, who has captivated us with his preaching and guitar playing. And now that he has us, he refuses to let us go or let us down. They still arrived during an era where nu metal and hip-hop were dominating charts. Then you had the White Stripes, who were creating an arena rock sound from just 2 instruments. Their sound was simple, but it was the beginning of a revolution that was just about to knock the mainstream rock world on its ass. Jack White truly believed that his creativity thrived on making something good out of next to nothing. That if he had no restrictions on the group's sound, it would lead to worse material. At only 50 seconds, Little Room is probably the most essential of the Little tracks, as it encapsulates Jack's core concept of the band. Where the first 2 records were recorded in Jack's living room, White Blood Cells would be the group's first record recorded in an actual studio. The song focuses on the group's anxieties in nourishing the continued success and authenticity of their art. In this Little Room, Jack found liberation in limitations, but he couldn't help wonder what he could create if he had more.
But if it's really good, You're gonna need a bigger room.
And now that he finally has access to better resources, he's worried he'll be overwhelmed by the increasing number of options available to him.
And when you're in the bigger room, you might not know what to do.
You see, when you've got all of the colors in the world to paint a picture, it becomes more difficult to just paint what you really feel inside. And the same sort of thing applies to music. He wants back in that little room.
You might have to think of how you got started, sitting in your little room.
Stripping back down to the bare essentials forced Jack to be inventive with what he did have. And Little Room might just be the most stripped down track on the record. There's no guitar on it whatsoever. It's just Meg pounding on the kick and a hi-hat. And with a faint tambourine in hand, Jack gets out a few lines before heading into somewhat of an improvised chant. Little Acorns opens with a fumbling piano melody.
For Janet, help came from her faith, but it also came from a squirrel.
A radio announcer enters telling the story of Janet, a woman inspired to overcome her problems after seeing a squirrel.
And she thought, if that squirrel can take care of himself with a harsh winter coming on, so can I.
And this was all a happy accident. Jack's brother worked at a radio commercial distribution place and had brought Jack tapes to record on. After recording the piano melody and listening back, he realized he had recorded over an old broadcasting tape. And it was perfectly timed. What you hear on the album is just how Jack heard it when it first happened. So he ran with it and wrote the rest of the song around that squirrel anecdote. The longest of the little songs, it's also the most dynamic of them. Following the spoken word and piano section, we transition into an entirely new sound. We get another change-up as the instrumentals back away, and Jack sings from a distance over a muted strum. The band's strength was in constantly pushing their sound while using the same few elements to create new moods for each album. But how much longer could they possibly restrain themselves? It's a thought that entered Jack's mind as he began playing with new techniques. While not a total departure from their previous records, Get Behind Me Satan finds them expanding their sound away from their usual guitar and drums formula, trading an electric guitar for an acoustic more often than not, and attempting to be more rhythmic in their approach. Little Ghost accomplishes both. Exchanging his electric guitar for a mandolin gives the tune a bluegrass feel.
Little ghost, what I'm scared of most. Can you scare me up a little bit of love?
Meg's kit sounds like it's reduced to just her kick drum, solely keeping the rhythm for a harmony of voices.
First moment that I met her, I did not expect to specter. When I shook her hand, I really shook her glove.
Yet another uncommon shift for the group. It's probably one of their oddest songs, adding to the overall experimental detour that was Get Behind Me Satan. For their sixth and final album, the group would return to their stripped-down garage rock and blues. And quite literally, Little Cream Soda was originally a lost White Stripes cut. The hardcore riff was originally improvised by Jack during an early show. But he had forgotten about it, until his nephew brought him a recording of the lost performance. On the track, Jack isn't singing as much as he's making a claim, speaking on his worries and his loss of innocence as an adult.
Well, every highway that I go down seems to be longer than the last one that I knew about. Oh well.
The White Stripes had grown too, and were no longer the little people they mirrored on their debut. The pair were now a well-oiled machine, much more popular, and far too talented to retain that childish flair. Jack even states in the track,
There's nothing left for me to tell you. Nothing left for me to tell you.
sounding like he knew the band's conclusion was nearing. To produce more than 80 studio tracks while voluntarily limiting themselves was incredible. The band was usually only ever using 3 musical elements at any given time. They really did push their creativity to its limits. The White Stripes weren't just a great band. They were a great band packaged around a simple concept of less is more. And in that sense, their little songs were a constant reminder of their roots and what made them so successful in the first place. By making themselves smaller, they found bigness from that, in both their sound and popularity. They wanted to make rock music and show the world how much they could do with only the essentials. And in their pursuit, they didn't reinvent rock, they embodied it. Thanks for watching, ladies and gents. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like rating. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified of when the next episode goes up. I've started a podcast called Middle 8 Madness where my friends and I debate over artists' best albums. Episodes include guests like Vinyl Rewind, Alpha Media, Polyphonic, Volksgeist, and a lot more to come. You can find the link to the first episode below. My creator friends and I have also teamed up to build our own platform where we don't have to worry about copyright claims or how much music we use in our videos. It's called Nebula, And it allows me and other creators to continue doing what we love to do, and that's to create without limitations, where we can share our content ad-free and even experiment with stuff that probably wouldn't work on YouTube. And we're proud to be working with CuriosityStream. As the go-to source for the best documentaries on the internet, CuriosityStream loves educational content and educational creators. So we've worked out a deal where if you sign up with the link below, not only do you get access to CuriosityStream, but you'll also get Nebula for free. It's not some trial either. You'll have Nebula as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And for a limited time, CuriosityStream is offering 26% off their annual plan. That's less than $15 a year for both CuriosityStream and Nebula. So keep learning and growing despite these quarantine restrictions. Listen to David Attenborough share the wonders of nature. Let Chris Hadfield explain and condense the unimaginable scale of space. Or just watch Tom Scott torture your favorite YouTubers on Nebula. Head to the link in the description to get both CuriosityStream and Nebula for 26% off. Or you can go to curiositystream.com/middle8. It's a great way to support this channel and educational content in general for just $14.79 a year. But tell me, what's your favorite White Stripes album? Let me know in the comments below. And follow us at More Middle 8 on Twitter and Instagram for, well, More Middle 8. But that's it from me. Again, thanks for watching and keep listening to our podcast.